Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are wrestling with a heavyweight. And I mean that literally.
Yeah.
We have a source material in front of us that is physically heavy, but the ideas inside it are, I think, even heavier. We are cracking open, wow, the Visual Encyclopedia of Everything.
It is a massive volume. It really
It
is.
is. And, everything is a big topic, so we are going to exercise some discipline today. We have to.
A little bit. Yeah.
We're ignoring the history, we're ignoring the space and the technology sections. We are going to laser focus on just one specific part of it, nature.
And honestly, that is probably the most dense section of the entire book. Because when you look at nature through the lens of this encyclopedia, you aren't just looking at a catalog of animals.
It's not a field guide.
It's not. You aren't just looking at pretty pictures of tigers and flowers.
Yeah.
You are looking at a visual guide to engineering.
That is exactly the vibe I got. It's all about mechanisms. It's problem solving. We tend to have these very simple labels for things, right?
Yeah.
That's a tree, that's a bug, that's a mushroom. But the mission of this deep dive is to sort of tear those labels off and look at the machinery underneath.
The guts of it.
Yeah. How are these things built? How do they fuel themselves? And what are the frankly bizarre strategies they use just to keep existing for another day?
That's absolutely the right approach. If you strip away the fur and the feathers and the bark and the leaves, what you are left with are, well, they're biological machines.
Right.
Every single organism is a solution to a set of problems. You've got gravity, you've got energy, you've got reproduction and defense. And each one has a different answer.
And the scale of these solutions, wow, in the title is earned. Some of the stats we're going to unpack today are they're brain-breaking.
They really are.
We have trees that weigh 30 times more than a blue whale.
The General Sherman. It's a complete marvel of structural engineering. Just to exist at that scale is mind-boggling.
And then you have creatures that breathe through their skin but can, drown in the open air.
It sounds impossible.
It does. And we have mushrooms that are basically icebergs, where the thing you see is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the monster living underground.
And don't forget the microscopic glass boxes drifting in the ocean that are responsible for, every second breath you take?
It is a lot to take in. But I think we have to start where life essentially starts, the foundation of everything, the solar-powered factory.
We have to talk about plants. It is the only logical place to begin. Without them, the rest of the system just has no fuel.
Now, we all learned about photosynthesis in school. It's one of those things, sunlight, water, carbon dioxide equals sugar.
The classic formula.
Right. But looking at the diagrams in this book, it really reframes the leaf. It's not just some green decoration on a twig. It is a high-tech solar panel.
It's a transducer. That is the engineering term for it. A leaf converts one form of energy, electromagnetic energy from the sun, into chemical energy.
Which is glucose. Sugar.
Exactly. It's a factory floor. You have the inputs coming in, CO2 from the air, water from the soil, and the output is the fuel that runs the entire planet.
And, as a little bonus for us, oxygen, which is the waste product.
Right. We are literally surviving on their exhaust fumes.
But the part of this section that really, really stopped me in my tracks was the plumbing. Because, okay, I get the chemistry, fine, but the physics of it, that is a whole other problem.
It was a huge problem.
You have a tree, like a giant redwood. It's hundreds of feet tall. The water is down in the dirt. The factory, the leaves are way, way up in the sky.
It is a massive gravity problem. A fundamental engineering challenge.
Exactly. How do you move thousands of gallons of really heavy water up 30 stories without a mechanical pump? If we humans want to get water to the top of a skyscraper, we need massive electric pumps and pressure tanks.
Huge amounts of energy.
And trees just do it silently.
They do it by using the properties of water itself. It's a process called transpiration. This is one of those real aha moments in the book.
Okay.
The engine isn't at the bottom pushing up. That's what we'd assume. The engine's at the top, pulling.
Wait, pulling? How does that work? It sounds like magic.
Okay, so think of the leaf. It's covered in these tiny little pores called stomata.
Right.
When the sun hits the leaf, it warms up, and water evaporates out of those pores. The leaf is basically sweating.
Okay, so the water leaves the leaf as vapor.
But here's the trick. Water molecules are chemically sticky. They have a property called high cohesion. They like to hold hands, essentially.
Right.
So when one water molecule evaporates and leaves the pore, it tugs on the molecule right behind it to take its place.
Ah, like a chain link or a rope.
Exactly. And that molecule pulls the one behind it, and that one pulls the one behind it, and so on. This creates a continuous, unbroken chain of water, a rope of water stretching from the leaf, down the branch, down the trunk, all the way to the tiny root hairs in the soil.
So it creates a vacuum, a negative
A
pressure.
powerful suction, yeah. The tree is basically a giant straw.
And it doesn't collapse on itself.
The structure of the wood, the xylem, prevents
Yeah.
that. It's incredibly strong.
So the tree is a giant straw, and the sun is the one sucking on the straw.
Precisely. The energy to lift all that water doesn't come from the tree's muscles. It doesn't have any. It comes directly from the heat of the sun. The hotter and windier it is, the faster the water gets pulled up.
That completely changes how you look at a forest. It's not just standing there. It's this roaring, hydraulic column of water being pulled silently into the sky.
Thousands of gallons an hour in a big tree. And remember, that water isn't empty. The source makes a great point that the roots are actively absorbing dissolved mineral salts, nitrates, and phosphates from the soil.
So the water is the conveyor belt.
And the nutrients are the cargo being delivered to the factory floor.
Now, before a plant can become this hydraulic skyscraper, it has to start as a seed. And the encyclopedia uses the humble bean as the case study here, which I thought was a great choice.
The bean is perfect because all the parts are large enough to see without a microscope. It vividly illustrates what you could call the chicken and egg problem of plant life.
Which is, you need leaves to make energy, but you need energy to grow the leaves in the first place.
Exactly. How do you start the engine if the battery is dead?
The seed is the answer. It's a self-contained survival capsule. The book points out the testa, which is this hard outer coat. That's the armor plating.
It's incredible. It protects the embryo inside from drying out, from bacteria, from physical damage, sometimes for years. But inside that armor, you have the cotyledons.
I love that word, cotyledons. It sounds so, I don't know, prehistoric.
It does. They are the seed leaves. But they are not for photosynthesis, not yet. They are fuel tanks.
A packed lunch.
That's a perfect way to put it. A packed lunch from the parent plant, just full of starch and protein.
So when the seed gets wet and the conditions are right, it swells, it bursts that armor and starts to grow. But it's underground. It's totally dark. It can't use the sun yet.
So it burns the fuel in the cotyledons. That initial energy burst is what drives the root down to anchor it and, critically, drives the shoot up, fighting against gravity, fighting against the soil.
It's a race against time.
It's a desperate race. It has to break the surface and deploy its solar panels, the true leaves, before that fuel tank runs completely empty.
And once it breaks through into the sunlight and turns green,
The solar factory comes online. The cotyledons, their job is done. They usually shrivel up and just fall off. The plant is now self-sufficient.
it's amazing to think that every single massive tree we see started with that same desperate race in the dark, just burning a tiny packed lunch for fuel.
Every single one.
Speaking of massive trees, we absolutely have to talk about the heavyweights. The source material emphasizes 3 superlatives for trees: tallest, heaviest, and oldest.
The trifecta of dominance in the living world.
We mentioned the weight already, but it's worth repeating. The General Sherman, a giant sequoia, it weighs approximately 6,000 tons.
And to put that in perspective, as the book does, that is 30 times the weight of a blue whale. 30.
We always think of whales as the biological limit of size, the biggest animal ever.
Right. But on land, a single plant blows it completely out of the water.
And it does it while standing on one leg, essentially, for thousands of
It's been
years.
fighting gravity that entire time. It's a constant battle.
The age is the other thing that's just hard to comprehend. The bristlecone pine. The text mentions one specific tree that is nearly 5,000 years old.
Methuselah. Just try to think about that timeline. When that tree was a tiny sapling, humans were just starting to figure out written language.
Wow.
The pyramids of Giza hadn't been built yet. The Roman Empire was thousands of years in the future. Empires have risen and fallen, entire civilizations have vanished, and that tree has just been standing there.
Quietly adding one ring of wood every year.
Exactly. Tree rings are nature's hard drive. They're a perfect record.
How so?
They record the climate. A wide, fat ring means a good, wet year with a long growing season. A narrow, tight ring means a drought or a cold, short summer. We can reconstruct the history of the planet's weather hundreds, even thousands of years back, just by drilling a tiny core sample into these trees.
But they have to be incredibly tough to last that long. The source makes a really interesting comparison between broadleaves and needles. This is another classic engineering trade-off.
Everything in nature is a trade-off. There's no perfect solution. A broadleaf like you'd see on an oak or a maple tree is like a high-performance sports car. It has a huge surface area, so it catches a ton of sunlight. It makes sugar very, very fast. It's highly efficient,
But it's fragile.
very fragile. It loses a lot of water through those stomata, and if it freezes, the cells inside just burst. It's metabolically expensive to maintain. That's why deciduous trees drop them in the winter.
They cut their losses.
They just cut their losses and shut down for the season.
Whereas the pine tree with its needles.
The needle is a tank. It's a leaf that has been rolled up into a tight little tube and coated in a thick layer of wax.
So it has much less surface area.
Way less surface area, so it photosynthesizes slower. It's a lower performance model. But it is unbelievably durable. It can handle heavy snow loads, it can handle freezing temperatures, and it can handle scorching heat without drying out.
So it's the tortoise and the hare.
It's exactly the tortoise and the hare. The pine tree wins the endurance race. That's why you see conifers in the absolute harshest environments on Earth, from the Arctic Circle to the high desert.
Okay, so we have the factory, we have the structure. Now the plant needs to franchise. It needs to make more plants. Let's talk reproduction.
The birds, the bees, and the wind.
The source describes flowers in a way I really liked. It calls them advertising.
That is the perfect analogy. If you're a plant, you have one major disadvantage compared to almost every animal. You are stuck in the ground.
Right. You're rooted in place.
You cannot walk over to a mate to reproduce. You need a third party, a go-between, to carry your genetic material for you.
You need a courier service.
Right? And couriers don't work for free. So the flower is the billboard. It's the big flashy sign that says, hey, stop here. Great deals.
The colors, the patterns.
All designed to grab attention. And many of those patterns are only visible in ultraviolet light, which insects can see, but we can't.
And the payment for the courier is the nectar.
Pure sugar water. High-octane fuel for a flying insect or a hummingbird. The animal lands to drink the bribe, and while it's there, the plant pulls a trick. It dusts the visitor with pollen from the stamen.
The male part.
Right. Then the insect or bird flies to the next flower, brushes against the stigma, the female part, and boom, delivery complete. Fertilization has occurred.
But not all plants like to pay for advertising. Some are cheap.
The wind pollinators. Grasses, many large trees like oaks and birches, they don't bother with colorful flowers. They don't waste energy producing nectar.
They just dump pollen into the air and hope for the best.
It's a pure numbers game.
Yeah.
Insect pollination is precision bombing. The pollen goes exactly where it needs to go, carried by a specific agent. Wind pollination is carpet bombing. You release millions, billions of grains of pollen and just hope that statistically, a few of them will land on a receptive female flower of the same species.
Which explains why my car is covered in yellow dust every single spring.
And why your hay fever flares up. You are inhaling the wasted, unaimed genetic material of trees.
That's a charming thought. So fertilization happens and you get a seed, but the plant isn't done yet. If the seed just falls straight down, it's going to land in the shadow of its parent.
It's bad real estate. It will have to compete for light, water, and nutrients. The parent plant needs to kick the kid out of the house.
Enter the fruit. The source calls fruit a travel agent.
It's another bribe. It's the same strategy as the flower. The plant wraps the seed or seeds in a delicious, sugary, brightly colored package.
An apple, a berry, a cherry.
Right. An animal, a monkey, a bird, a bear comes along and eats the fruit.
But the seed is a Trojan horse.
Absolutely. The source notes that these seeds are digestion-proof. They have incredibly tough skins. They are designed to travel through the animal's entire digestive system completely unharmed.
So the animal walks a few miles away.
It digests the sugary fruit part,
Mm-hmm.
and then it poops out the seed.
So the seed gets transportation, and it lands in its own personal pile of high-quality fertilizer.
It is the absolute perfect start in life. You can't ask for better.
But my absolute favorite part of this whole section was the broad bean dispersal method. It doesn't wait for an animal. It uses ballistics.
Mechanical dispersal. This is pure tension physics. It's so cool.
Explain it.
As the bean pod dries out in the sun, the fibers in the pod wall start to shrink. But they shrink at different rates on different sides of the pod. This creates massive twisting tension in the structure.
Like winding up a rubber band.
Exactly, until the structural integrity finally fails. The pod snaps open, twisting violently, and the seeds are flung out at high speed. It's a botanical cannon.
That's amazing. It just shows that plants aren't these passive things. They are launching artillery strikes to ensure their species survives.
They are active participants in their own lives, absolutely.
Now, moving on from plants, we encounter a group that is so often confused with plants, but the encyclopedia is very, very firm on this point. They are not plants.
The kingdom of fungi. the great in-between.
I think we tend to group them with plants just because they stick out of the ground and they don't move around. But biologically, they are weirdly closer to animals, is that right?
In some key ways, yes. The fundamental difference is how they eat. Plants are autotrophs. They make their own food via photosynthesis.
Right, self-feeders.
Fungi are heterotrophs, just like us. They have to find food in their environment and consume it.
But they don't have mouths or stomachs.
No. They digest the world externally. They grow into their food, whether it's a dead log or a living tree or a piece of bread, and they secrete powerful digestive enzymes that dissolve the material into a liquid soup.
And then they just absorb it.
Then they absorb the nutrients. They essentially rot their food before they eat it.
Delicious. And the mushroom, the part we actually see, that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Literally. I mean, that's the perfect analogy. The mushroom is just the fruiting body. Its only job is to pass up into the air for a day or two and release spores for reproduction.
Okay.
The actual organism is the mycelium.
The hidden network.
Imagine a vast, sprawling web of white, thread-like filaments called hyphae running through the soil or the wood. That is the creature. And the scale can be terrifying.
This is where the book mentions the honey fungus.
Yeah. This part blew my mind, too, when I first read it.
1.6 million square feet.
It's one single organism, one genetic individual. Its network covers an area larger than 150 football fields. It has been growing there for centuries, maybe thousands of years, silently expanding under the forest floor. It's one of the largest living things on Earth.
And it's not just sitting there, it's connecting things, right? The symbiosis section talks about fungi growing around and even into plant roots.
This is the wood wide web, as some people call it. It's a massive underground trade agreement.
A trade agreement.
The fungus has these incredibly fine threads that can mine the soil for minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen much more efficiently than the thick, clumsy roots of a tree can. But the fungus can't make sugar.
And the tree can?
The tree is a sugar factory. So the tree makes sugar, pipes it down to its roots, and trades it to the fungus in exchange for those hard-to-get minerals.
So they're partners.
They're essential partners. Without this fungal partnership, many forests simply wouldn't exist. The trees wouldn't be able to get enough nutrients to grow that large.
But then you have the other side of fungi, the cleanup crew. The turkey tail fungus is the example in the book.
The recyclers, this is absolutely vital. Think about it. If fungi didn't eat dead wood, the forest would eventually just be buried in their own debris.
Nothing would decay.
Nothing. Fungi are one of the only organisms that can break down lignin, the tough stuff that makes wood hard. They unlock the nutrients trapped in dead trees and put them back into the soil so new life can grow. They are the garbage collectors of the natural world.
But we have to talk about the danger. Because for humans, foraging for fungi is like walking through a minefield. The book shows the fly agaric.
The classic toadstool. Red cap, white spots. It looks like it belongs in a fairy tale or a children's book.
But it's very bad news.
It's hallucinogenic and highly toxic.
Yeah.
And those white spots, they're actually the remnants of a membrane, a veil that completely covered the mushroom when it was a baby, like an egg. As it grew and expanded, the veil ripped apart, leaving those iconic scales.
And then there's the death cap.
The name really says it all. There is no ambiguity there.
No.
The toxins in a single death cap mushroom are enough to destroy your liver. And the truly scary part is that it looks very similar to some common edible mushrooms, like the paddy straw mushroom popular in Asian cuisine.
Yeah, the source explicitly warns about the difficulty of identification.
The takeaway there is incredibly simple. Don't eat stuff you find in the woods unless you really, truly 100% know what you're doing.
Hey, leave it to the absolute experts.
Correct.
Okay, let's leave the forest floor and head out to the open ocean. But we aren't talking about sharks and whales yet. We're talking about the invisible foundation of the entire marine world. Plankton.
Plankton is another one of those words we all use, but most of us don't really know what it means. It's not a specific species of animal.
It's a lifestyle choice.
It really is. It comes from the Greek word plankos, which just means drifter or wanderer. The definition of plankton is anything living in the water that cannot actively swim against the current.
So if you just drift, you are plankton.
That's the only rule.
So a giant jellyfish is technically plankton.
Yes. A huge lion's mane jellyfish is technically considered megaplankton. But usually when we say plankton, we are talking about the microscopic stuff.
The source splits them into two teams, phytoplankton and zooplankton.
The plants and the animals of the drifting world.
So phytoplankton
Phytoplankton are the grass of the sea. They are microscopic, single-celled organisms that photosynthesize. And the star of the show here, as the book points out, is the diatom.
These things are gorgeous. I mean, the electron microscope photos, they look like little jewels or tiny carved boxes.
They are. They're incredible. They are microscopic organisms that build shells for themselves made of silica. Glass, essentially.
Yeah.
They have two halves that fit together perfectly, like a pillbox or a fancy box with a lid.
Microscopic glass houses.
And they are unbelievably important, along with cyanobacteria, which the book notes are some of the oldest life forms on Earth, maybe 3.5 billion years old. These tiny drifters produce a huge percentage of the world's oxygen.
We think of the rainforests as the lungs of the planet.
But the ocean plankton are just as, if not more, important. They are a huge part of why our atmosphere is breathable, and they are the absolute base of the ocean food web. Everything starts with them.
And then you have the zooplankton, the animal drifters that eat the phytoplankton.
The grazers. Copepods are the main ones mentioned in the book. They're tiny, shrimp-like crustaceans. They form these massive swarms, trillions of them, grazing on the fields of diatoms.
And then they, in turn, get eaten by everything else.
By small fish, and even by the largest whales on the planet. They are the critical bridge that turns sunlight energy, captured by the diatoms, into meat energy.
But the section that really surprised me was the larvae, the babies.
Right, this is so cool. So many of the sea creatures we know, crabs, lobsters, coral, barnacles, most fish, they start their lives as plankton.
And they look nothing like their parents.
Not at all. They are these tiny, transparent, alien-looking things drifting in the current. A baby crab looks more like a tiny, spiky mosquito than a crab.
It's a dispersal strategy, isn't it?
That's exactly it. A coral reef is stationary. It can't get up and walk to any location. But if it releases millions of floating larvae, the ocean currents will carry them hundreds of miles away to settle and start a whole new colony.
There is one creature in this section that looked like a total nightmare. The arrowworm.
A transparent predator.
It looks like a shard of glass with teeth.
It is a terrifying hunter at the microscopic scale. It's almost invisible in the water. And it just hangs there until a copepod swims by, and then it shoots forward to grab it with these sharp, grasping spines around its mouth.
It's a reminder that even in a single drop of seawater, there is this brutal life-or-death struggle for survival going on constantly.
A microscopic Serengeti.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's zoom way out from the microscopic to what is arguably the most successful group of animals on the entire planet. The conquerors. Insects.
The numbers here are just silly. They're hard to process. The source notes that beetles, just one group, beetles, account for 1/3 of all known animal species on Earth.
That is a staggering stat. Let's just sit with that. If you line up every animal species we've ever discovered, every mammal, every bird, every reptile, every fish, everything, 1 in every 3 is a type of beetle.
If you find an animal you don't recognize and you have to bet on what it is, bet on beetle. You'll be right more often than not.
So what makes them so successful? What is the insect blueprint that works so well?
It's a modular design that is incredibly durable and adaptable. First, you have the exoskeleton, the armor. It's made of a substance called chitin.
So their skeleton is on the outside.
Right. It provides structure and protection. It's light, it's strong, and crucially, it is waterproof.
There's that waterproofing theme again. It seems so important for life on land.
It's the key innovation.
Yeah.
It allowed them to leave the damp areas and conquer the dry land in a way that, say, amphibians never could. Then you have the 6 legs, which is a very stable tripod design, and the 3-part body. Head, thorax, and abdomen.
It's a chassis.
It's a chassis that you can then modify endlessly to fit any niche.
Okay, let's talk about the modifications, the sensory equipment, the antenna.
We tend to think of them as feelers for touch, but they're really chemical noses. They are unbelievably sensitive. The book mentions certain moths with these huge feathery antennae.
Yeah.
They could detect the scent of a female moth, the pheromones, from a kilometer away.
A kilometer? That's insane.
They are detecting individual molecules of a specific chemical in the air. It is a level of sensitivity that is just beyond anything we can imagine.
And their eyes. Compound eyes.
Mosaic vision. Instead of one big lens focusing an image on a retina like our eyes do, they have hundreds or thousands of tiny individual lenses, each capturing 1 pixel of the world.
So they don't get a high-resolution picture.
No, it's very pixelated. But their refresh rate is insane. They perceive motion much, much faster than we do.
Which is why it's basically impossible to swat a fly.
Exactly. To the fly, your hand is moving in slow motion. You are moving through molasses from its perspective. It has all the time in the world to see you, calculate the trajectory, and get out of the way.
But there's a flaw in the design, or at least a limitation. Why don't we have ants the size of buses? What stops them from getting huge?
Breathing. It all comes down to breathing.
Right.
The source explains that insects don't have lungs. They don't have a circulatory system with blood that carries oxygen like we do.
So how do they get oxygen to their muscles?
They have a series of tiny holes along the side of their abdomen called spiracles. These holes lead to a network of tubes called trachea that branch out smaller and smaller and run all through the body, delivering air directly to the cells.
So the air just floats in.
It's passive diffusion, and diffusion only works efficiently over very, very short distances. If an insect got too big, the air just wouldn't be able to travel deep enough into its body. The inner cells would suffocate.
So unless the oxygen level in the atmosphere goes way, way up.
Which it has in the distant past, leading to giant dragonflies and so on.
But right now, they're physically capped at a certain size. We're safe from the giant ants.
For now, we are safe.
The book also details some specific toolkits. The beetle's wings, for example.
The elytra. This is a huge reason why beetles are so successful. Flying wings are, by nature, very delicate membranes. If you're an insect that digs in the dirt or crawls under bark, you're going to rip them to shreds.
So beetles evolved a solution.
They evolved hard, armored front wings that don't do any flying. They are wing cases.
It's like a convertible roof for their flight wings.
That's a great way to think about it. They land, fold their delicate flight wings up with this complex origami-like pattern, and then lock the armor down over them. It allows them to be an armored tank and a fighter jet at the same time.
And then there are the wasps and bees. The sting. I learned something new here from the book. The sting is actually a modified egg-laying organ.
The ovipositor, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why male wasps and bees can't sting. They simply don't have the equipment. The females repurpose the tube that was originally used to inject eggs into wood or into other insects and turned it into a hypodermic needle for delivering venom.
Remind me never to get on the bad side of a female wasp.
That is always good advice.
Okay, let's plunge back underwater. Fish and crustaceans.
Fish were the great pioneers of our lineage. They were the first vertebrates. They invented the backbone.
But they split into two major camps early on, the bony fish and the cartilage fish.
Right. Most of the fish you can think of, tuna, cod, salmon, they have skeletons made of bone, just like us. But sharks and rays, an older group, kept the cartilage.
The same stuff that's in our nose and ears.
Exactly. It's lighter and much more flexible than bone. This makes sharks incredibly efficient, powerful swimmers. They aren't lugging around a heavy, rigid calcium skeleton.
But the bony fish got really creative with shapes. The boxfish is my favorite weirdo in this entire section.
It looks like a plastic toy someone dropped in the water. It doesn't look real.
Its scales are fused together to form a rigid, bony box, so it can't wiggle its body to swim like a normal fish.
No, it has to use its tiny little fins to paddle itself around like a little hovercraft.
It sounds like it shouldn't work at all. It seems so clumsy.
You'd think so, but it does. That boxy shape is surprisingly stable in turbulent water near reefs. It creates these little vortices that keep it steady. Engineers have actually studied the boxfish for car designs because it's hydrodynamic in a very specific, efficient way.
And then there's the seahorse.
The ultimate rule breaker. It swims vertically. It has a prehensile tail, like a monkey, to hold on to seagrass so it doesn't float away. And, of course, the reproduction is completely bizarre.
That gets pregnant.
The female transfers her eggs into the male's brood pouch. He then fertilizes them internally and carries them, like a kangaroo, until they hatch and he gives birth. It completely flips the biological script on its head.
And what about the river monsters? The carp is mentioned.
The carp is the ultimate survivor. They can live in really poor quality water with very low oxygen levels. When other fish are suffocating in a stagnant warm pond in the summer, the carp is perfectly fine. It's an evolutionary tank.
Now, let's talk about the other aquatic armored division, the insects of the sea. Crustaceans.
Crabs, lobsters, shrimp, barnacles, they follow the same basic plan as insects. Jointed legs, a hard exoskeleton.
What?
But they have one major life-threatening vulnerability.
Growing pains, literally.
Because they live inside a hard, unstretchy box, they can't grow smoothly like we do. They have to molt. They have to shed their entire skeleton.
Yeah, this sounds like a horror movie process.
It basically is. They have to find a safe place to hide, crack their old shell open along a seam, and then pull their entire body, every leg, every even their eye stalks, out of the old skin. It takes a huge amount of energy and time.
And when they come out on the other side...
They're soft, like jelly.
Yeah.
Until the new, larger shell hardens over a few days, They are completely and utterly defenseless.
An easy meal.
The easiest meal in the ocean. Every predator knows this. A soft-shell crab isn't a species. It's just a crab that's in that vulnerable state. So they have to hide in a hole and hope nothing finds them.
The diversity is wild, though. Barnacles. I always thought they were mollusks, like clams or mussels.
Most people do. They build a similar-looking shell. But if you could look inside that shell, you'd see it's a tiny, shrimp-like creature lying on its back.
And it glues its head to a rock for its entire adult life.
Glues its head down with a super strong cement, and then it just kicks its feathery little legs out into the water to catch passing food particles. It's a crustacean that chose a sedentary life.
And on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have woodlice, the little roly-polies.
The only group of crustaceans that really managed to conquer the land, but they never fully solved the water problem.
How so?
They still breathe through modified gills that need to stay wet to work.
Which is why you always find them under damp logs or in wet leaf litter.
Exactly. They are land animals that are still fundamentally tethered to a moist environment.
Which brings us perfectly to the next section in the book, The Great Transition. Amphibians and reptiles.
This is the story of life escaping the water for good.
Amphibians, frogs, salamanders, newts, they are the half measure, they're stuck in the middle.
The word amphibian literally means double life. They have 1 foot on land and 1 foot still firmly in the water. The key feature here is their skin. It's permeable.
It lets things pass through it.
Right, they can absorb oxygen directly from the water or air through their skin, which is a kind of superpower.
Yeah.
But the downside is that water escapes from their bodies just as easily.
So they dry out very quickly.
Incredibly fast. If you put a frog on a dry sidewalk in the sun, it will die. It will desiccate. So they are forever chained to damp environments, ponds and streams and wet forests.
And because they're so soft and squishy, they're vulnerable, so they developed chemical warfare.
The poison dart frog is the classic example. It has no claws, no sharp teeth. Its only defense is being one of the most toxic animals on the planet.
And the bright colors. The fire salamander is mentioned in the book.
Bright yellow and black. In nature, those colors are a universal stop sign. It's called aposematism. It's the opposite of camouflage. It's advertising that says, I am not hiding from you, because if you eat me, you will regret it. You might even die.
Then the reptiles come along and basically say, we can do better than this.
The great reptile innovation was waterproof skin. Scales.
It seals the moisture in.
This was a complete game changer. Suddenly, animals could leave the swamp behind. They could walk out into the dry grasslands, even into the desert. They broke the chain that tied them to the water's edge.
And the egg. The book touches on this. The reptile egg is leathery and self-contained.
It's a private pond. An amphibian egg is a jelly-like blob. It has to be laid in water or it dries out. A reptile egg has a protective shell that holds water inside with the embryo. It has its own life support system. This was the final piece of the puzzle that allowed them to reproduce on dry land.
Except, ironically, for the turtles.
The great irony of evolution. Turtles developed all this amazing gear to live on land, the waterproof skin, the shelled egg, and then a bunch of them decided to go back to the ocean.
But they kept the egg.
They kept the egg. So a sea turtle, which is perfectly adapted for swimming with its flippers, has to awkwardly drag its heavy body up a sandy beach to lay its eggs. Because if it laid them in the water, the babies inside would drown.
Nature is complicated and full of weird compromises.
It is indeed.
Okay, let's move to the struggle. The eternal arms race. Feeding and defense.
The universal game of life. Eat and avoid being eaten.
The feeding strategies in the book are just all over the place. You have the gentle giants, the filter feeders like the basking shark.
The second largest fish in the world, and it eats some of the smallest things. It just swims slowly with a mouth like a giant cavern, sieving plankton out of the water. It's a low-energy strategy. You don't have to chase anything down.
Then you have the extreme specialists, the giant anteater.
This is an animal built for one single job. It has no teeth at all. It doesn't need them. It has a long tubular snout and a tongue that can extend 2 feet out of its mouth.
And it's covered in sticky saliva.
Super sticky saliva. It just flicks that tongue in and out of termite mounds up to 150 times a minute. It is a machine designed for exactly one task. The risk, of course, is that if the termites disappear, the anteater has no backup plan. It starves.
And then the parasites, the leech and the tapeworm.
The horrors of the natural world. But you have to admire the efficiency. The tapeworm is particularly fascinating from a design perspective. It lives inside the intestine of a host animal. It is literally surrounded by pre-digested food.
So it doesn't need its own digestive system.
It lost it completely through evolution. It has no mouth, no stomach, no intestine. It just absorbs the nutrients from the host directly through its skin. It has outsourced the entire job of digestion. Why cook when you live inside a five-star restaurant?
That's a gross but very effective analogy. Now, on the flip side, you have defense. How do you avoid being the meal?
Camouflage is always the first line of defense. The best fight is the one you avoid. If the predator can't see you, it can't kill you. The mountain hare is a great example from the book. Brown in the summer to match the dirt and rocks.
And then it turns pure white in the winter to match the snow.
A perfect seasonal costume change.
But what if you were spotted?
Then you escalate. You can go for chemical weapons. The skunk.
The sniper.
It is a sniper, accurate up to about 2 meters. The spray contains these foul sulfur compounds that are temporarily blinding and incredibly nauseating. It shuts the predator's attack down instantly.
And then the wildest strategy of all. Acting. The opossum.
Playing dead, or thanatosis. But it's not just lying still and hoping for the best. The opossum commits to the role.
It's a method actor.
It is a method actor. It curls up, its heart rate and breathing slow down dramatically, and, this is the kicker, it secretes a foul-smelling green fluid from its anal glands.
So it doesn't just look dead, it smells dead. It smells like a rotting corpse.
Exactly. Most predators want a fresh kill. If their potential meal looks dead and smells rotten, they assume it's diseased or has been dead for a while, and they'll usually walk away and look for something healthier.
And the opossum just waits, wakes up 10 minutes later, and strolls off.
An Oscar-worthy performance every time. For up to 6 hours, apparently.
Incredible. Finally, we have to talk about growing up. Life cycles.
There are really two main ways nature handles growing up. Simple growth and the much more dramatic metamorphosis.
Simple growth is what we do, right? What dogs and turtles and most vertebrates do. The baby looks like a small version of the adult. It just gets bigger and becomes sexually mature.
It's straightforward. It's a low-risk, simple plan.
But metamorphosis, that is the stuff of science fiction. It's a total transformation.
It is a total reconstruction of the body plan. Amphibians do it. You go from aquatic, gill-breathing, vegetarian tadpole with a tail to a terrestrial, lung-breathing, carnivorous frog with legs.
But insects take the absolute crown for metamorphosis, the butterfly.
The butterfly life cycle is just insane. You start with the larva, the caterpillar.
The eating machine.
Its only job is to eat and grow. It does nothing else. It accumulates resources. Then it builds the pupa, the chrysalis. And inside that protective casing,
The book says the caterpillar is literally taken apart.
it digests itself. The caterpillar releases enzymes that dissolve most of its own muscles and organs into a nutrient-rich soup. The only things that survive are these tiny clusters of undifferentiated cells called imaginal discs.
Imaginal discs.
They're like little blueprints that were dormant inside the caterpillar. One disc is destined to become a wing, another one is for an eye, another for a leg. They use the energy and raw materials from the soup of the dead caterpillar to build the brand new body of the butterfly.
So the butterfly is literally made out of the recycled soup of the caterpillar it used to be.
Correct. It's a complete teardown and rebuild. And the adult butterfly, its job is often just reproduction. Some adult moths and butterflies don't even have working mouths.
Really?
They live entirely on the energy that they stored up as a caterpillar. Their only purpose is to fly, find a mate, lay eggs, and then die.
Talk about a singular purpose in life.
It's a very efficient division of labor. You have one life stage for gathering energy and a completely different life stage for spending that energy to reproduce.
So we have gone from the microscopic glass houses of diatoms all the way up to the 6,000-ton trees, from the underwater factories inside leaves to the chemical warfare of frogs. What is the big takeaway here from this deep dive into nature's mechanisms?
For me, it completely changes how you walk through the world. You can't look at a garden snail or a housefly buzzing around your kitchen or a weed cracking through the pavement as just background noise anymore.
They're all masterpieces of engineering.
Every single one of them is fighting a constant war, solving incredibly complex physics problems, and using strategies that have been refined and battle-tested over millions of years of evolution.
It's the interconnectivity that gets me, too. The sun feeds the plant, which feeds the insect, which feeds the frog, which feeds the snake.
And eventually, when the snake dies, the fungi eat it and return its nutrients to the soil to feed the plant. It's a perfect closed loop.
So the next time you step out on your lawn,
you should remember that there are empires rising and falling right under your feet. There's a mycelium network in the soil negotiating trade deals, and there's a plankton war happening in a single dewdrop on a blade of grass.
that feels like the real mission of this encyclopedia, to see the wow. in the completely everyday.
Always keep looking closer. There's always more to see.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.